The end of World War I was quickly followed by the post-war treaties that saw the demise of the Ottoman Empire and, after significant unrest, the beginning of the Republic of Turkey and the rise of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, who led widespread reforms and modernization across the new republic. At the onset of the First World War, the Ottoman Empire allied with the Central Powers, which included Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. After the Ottomans bombed Russian ports on the Black Sea in October 1914, Russia, Britain, and France declared war on the empire. Despite a successful campaign led by Colonel Mustafa Kemal, defending the Gallipoli Peninsula in 1915 and 16, the Turkish army was ill-equipped to match the modern armies of its enemies. By 1918, over 300,000 soldiers had died in battle, and more than 450,000 perished from disease. That same year, an influenza epidemic devastated the empire's civilian population, causing over 3 million deaths. Food shortages had also become more widespread after a locust plague in 1915, which destroyed large amounts of vegetation around Palestine, Mount Lebanon, and Syria. Starvation, sickness, hopelessness, and discontent ran right through the empire's provinces. In eastern Anatolia, the Ottoman government became increasingly concerned about the Armenian population's sympathies with the Russian army. The Turks began forcibly deporting the Armenians, which led to the murder of more than 800,000 people and reduced the Armenian population by 90%. With public support at an all-time low, the empire signed the Armistice of Modlos with the Allies in October 1918, ending the Turkish army's participation in the war. This armistice forced the empire to surrender their remaining garrisons outside Anatolia and grant the Allies the right to occupy the forts controlling the Straits of the Dardanelles and the Bosporus. The armistice was a devastating defeat for the Young Turks government. On November 2nd, the three leaders of the Committee of Union and Progress fled the country on a German torpedo boat. French troops arrived in Constantinople on November 12th, followed by British troops the next day. The Allies now controlled the Ottoman government, leading to the dissolution of its parliament on November 18th. Many members of parliament fled to Anatolia, joining what in time would become the new Turkish government. The humiliating outcome of the First World War and subsequent occupation of Constantinople instigated the formation of the Turkish national movement. This was a group of revolutionaries who sought to establish a new Turkish state based in Anatolia, where much of the empire's Turkish population had historically been based. And when the Greek army occupied Smyrna on May 15th, 1919, it was the beginning of the Turkish War of Independence. On April 23, 1920, the movement convened its own parliament in Ankara, a city in central Anatolia. The parliament was named the Grand National Assembly, and it elected Mustafa Kemal as its first president. On August 10th, the Treaty of Sèvres was signed by delegates from the Allies and the Ottoman government. The agreement distributed many of the empire's remaining territories between France, Great Britain, Greece, Italy, and Armenia. But the Grand National Assembly furiously rejected the treaty and declared the signatories to be guilty of treason. This escalated the Turkish War of Independence, which was now being fought on multiple fronts. In June 1920, the Greek troops occupying Smyrna began to march towards Anatolia, and by October had gained control of northwestern Anatolia. By 1921, the Turkish army was under Kemal's direct command and fought fiercely against the advance. In August, the Battle of Sakarya saw heavy losses for the Greeks who began to retreat towards Smyrna. Turkish forces stormed the city in September, taking thousands of prisoners of war and committing atrocities against the Greek and Armenian populations. At the end of the battle, the city was in flames, and more than 100,000 people were dead. The Turkish War of Independence came to an end with the signing of the Mudanya Armistice of 1922 and the Lausanne Peace Treaty of 1923. Constantinople, Eastern Thrace, and the Dardanelles were all freed from foreign occupation.
But for the first time in a century, Turkey belonged to the Turks.
In October 1923, a new Turkish republic was established, with Mustafa Kemal as its president and Ankara as its capital. After assuming office, Mustafa Kemal initiated a series of radical economic, political, and social reforms that aimed to modernize the Republic of Turkey. Kemal wanted to put Turkey on an equal footing with Western nations and began urging his citizens to act and dress like Europeans. The fez was outlawed as a symbol of the Ottoman regime, as were headscarves and veils in public buildings. Islamic canon law was replaced by a civil code modeled after Switzerland's and a penal code modeled after Italy's. Education was made free, secular, and co-educational, while women were given equal rights in regard to voting, political activity, marriage, and divorce. Many of Kemal's reforms focused on promoting a secular Turkish national identity. This included creating a modern Turkish alphabet by replacing the Ottoman Turkish alphabet with one derived from the Latin alphabet. Kemal also aimed to assimilate the various minorities in Turkey, who he feared might rebel and seize land for themselves. With the Armenians and Greeks eradicated or expelled from its provinces, the Turkish government turned its attention to the Kurdish population. The Turkish Constitution of 1924 banned the Kurdish language in public places, and a law was issued forcing Kurdish landowners to surrender their land to Turkish citizens. Kurdish dress and folklore were also banished, and many Kurdish inhabited areas were placed under martial law. Kemal's government sought to transform Turkey into a modern and ethnically homogeneous republic. He was a hero to his people and, in 1934, was given the surname Ataturk by the Turkish Grand National Assembly. The name, translated, means father of the Turks.
If you liked this video, you can find it and so many more at clickview.net. Sign up for free today.